Good evening. It is Monday, the 11th of September, 2023. It is just coming up to 8:30 UK time. And this is part of my journey, episode 36. And I have two very special guests today. The first one is WelshSwanny, and the second one is DJ Candyman. They're both part of the Global Funk fam, and we've been doing lots of really cool stuff in collaboration, including 45 Kids 45 Day monthly events. And we've got a lot to talk about. So, without further ado, we have got Swanny and we've got Candy. How you doing?
How you doing? Good to see you.
And we've got Maria already in the house with her greeting.
Hey, Maria. Buenas tardes. Buenas noches.
So great to have you both on the show. We've got a lot to talk about, I think, and we've got a couple of little video clips and stuff to show as well. But I always ask my guests from the beginning about their musical influences. Now, I know, Swanny, you're not a DJ as such, but when did you first become aware of... At all. When did you first become aware of music existing and it being in your life?
Way back when I was younger. I went to a Steiner school when I was a kid. I know that already some people in the chat have been again. But it's very kind of focused around creative learning and, development of the child. Stop it, Andy. It's your bit. And it was, part of learning how to read and write music and how to express yourself through music was quite important from that kind of methodology as well. So, yeah, way back then. But I've always been able to kind of read and write. I've always enjoyed music. I put on nights when I was at uni as well, sort of hard dance nights and trance and things like that. But really, it's probably my older brother that's led me musically, sort of feed me Valley the Jeep Beats and things like that when I was younger, Body Count and whatever else. So for better, for worse, my musical taste, I guess, has been guided by my brother. Yeah. And then sort of threw that into jungle. I used to like a lot of jungle and trance as well. As I kind of got to uni, did a lot of trance nights. Yeah, I went on a weird little path. I think everybody did. During the late 90s, early 2000s, it kind of got a bit weird and lasery, didn't it?
Yeah. I listened to Hard House. It was weird.
Yeah. Hard House. Yeah, I mean, it's and back then it was also new and fresh, wasn't it? And you had to go to find the music. We're in a very different musical environment now where you can just put Spotify or YouTube or Twitch or whatever and listen to this music. Back then, you either had to own it or listen to like pirate radio shows or something like that, or be a DJ or go out to club nights and stuff, didn't you? It wasn't as accessible as music is now.
We used to have a lot of people will know what I'm saying when we used to have Tribal Gathering 8-pack cassettes, and like there'd be one kid that would go and buy them from Chester. He'd come back and just copy them all and then sell them to everybody else. So that's you're absolutely right. That's how our kind of that was our Spotify, wasn't it? Really sitting in a Maestro listening to Tribal Gathering
tapes. Yeah. I mean, I was talking about this just this weekend actually about Select magazine, and I think it was 1994, and on the cover was a cassette, and it was Orbital, Impact, The World Is Burning, that song from that set, and I just listened to that in my car constantly. It's like a 10-minute thing. But cassettes were the way, and you'd copy them, and then you pass them on to someone else, and all the rest of it, and from live raves as well. You'd get people passing you rave tapes and stuff. It was
the old Dreamscapes tape packs were awesome. Yeah,
exactly. I'm going to ask you about your musical influence in a minute, Candy, but a couple of people we're going to say hello to. We've got Machine Girthy in the house. Hello.
What up?
And we've also said hello to Maria. We've got Barty Cuts as well, who's on Slow Mo Monday. We're doing Slow Mo Versary 1 year today. And we've also got Side Breaks, and we've got Criztoz, which is almost my name. Yeah, who's just joined. And we've also got Dr. Hooker and Mondakush as well.
GFF
GFF fully representing.
GFF family represented. That's great. That's really cool. Right. So,
in case anyone wonders, I'm actually looking at the chat up there. That's why I'm.
That's all right. That's all right. So, Candy, tell us about your musical influence. How did you first get into music?
So much like Swanny, actually, older brother, 7 years older than me. So mid 80s, I was like 6 years old, living northwest London. listening
Right.
to Run DMC, and then Beastie Boys came out.
Nice.
And then that was basically it. That was me from the age of 6, 7 years old, hooked on hip hop. And then as I grew a bit older, kind of getting into my early teens, I started trying to understand a bit more about hip hop, and I started picking up on where things were coming from in hip hop and realizing more about sampling and such.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's because of that I then got into funk and soul.
Yeah.
And then I was collecting records from a very young age as a kid, but didn't really have much of a chance to play them out until later on in life. And then that's when I got into drum and bass and breaks. So
I mean, we talk a lot because quite a lot of my guests have this sort of hip hop background, and it's the same for me because one of the questions I ask people is what genre best defines you, and when I answer that, I say hip hop, not because I play a lot of it, just because it's led to funk,
exactly,
reggae,
yeah.
Latin, all of it. It's just a big envelope of music, isn't it?
If you're of a certain age,
Yeah,
it was like the 80s and 90s. Hip hop was just the thing, and it came from music that came before it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
And again, it doesn't. I've talked about this before. It's not. It doesn't seem quite the same. I mean, you've got sampling in jungle tracks and house tracks and stuff like that, but it's not quite the same, is it? They don't take
No.
like whole hooks or whole loops necessarily, and so it is quite a unique genre, I think. And yeah, I love hip hop, so that's a great answer straight away. Right. Next stage is obviously I normally ask my guests how they get into sort of DJing or whatever. Now, again, Swanny, haven't DJ'd, but I understand that you were events manager. So do you want to talk us about that?
Yeah, it kind of started out. So I did computer science and IT when I was at college, but was always kind of interested in doing creative. I kind of like the logic side of computer programming and maths, and
right.
And I really enjoyed that sort of
Nice logic
learning.
pun.
Coming off the back of doing it without even noticing. Now, coming off the back of that Steiner system, the sort of rigid learning system and logic really worked for me, and that really helped me to develop, obviously, all of those kind of analytical and logical skills, pulling apart PCs and stuff like that when I was 14, 15.
Cool.
But after applying to various different courses, so I applied to 4 courses, as you do. One was like a 3D virtual design course. Another one was a out-and-out computer programming. One was kind of virtual reality stuff. But then also applied for this music industry course because I just thought, well, I quite like business side as well. And they were the ones that took me on. So the others kind of said, no, well, you haven't got the relevant skills, or do something else first, like a foundation. And obviously at that age, you just want to go, no. So I charged on through and did this music industry management course, which was much more about kind of the business side of stuff. So it was all about managing a band or a label, or being a tour manager, managing a venue, that kind of thing. And we were given quite a lot of opportunities by the student union venue manager, big up Rob Daniel, to use their cash to put on our own nights, because there was a lot of us in that course.
Cool.
So we used to do some really cool stuff. There was a really good mate of mine, Bryn, used to do nights with the True Players quite a lot. This was down in High Wycombe, I should have mentioned, sorry. So, Andy C and that lot were knocking around that scene at the time. And they put on some really, really good nights. As I say, I went more down the trance route, and at the same time was hanging out with Side Breaks. And we used to go to quite a few tunnel party raves and that sort of thing. So, yeah, kind of there was a lot of different events going on at the time, and a lot of different kind of influences on, I guess, what I wanted to do creatively. I don't know, but started doing a load of PlayStation stuff while I was at uni, and just helped out an agency that were in London essentially. Did quite well at that, put on quite a few big competitions with them and stuff, and then started working for that agency. So was doing stuff with PlayStation at 2002, 2003, kind of at the time when they were doing all that weird marketing stuff with the girl with the big head and all of that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So I was kind of always intrigued by how brands enter that space, and what PlayStation did was to go, right, we're going to put a load of PlayStations into clubs. At the time, the marketing director for PlayStation had some of the same contacts as some of the bigger music industry people. we shall say.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of went, next time Fatboy Slim or Chemical Brothers or anyone comes around, can you just give them that and all those games and then my business card? So
right.
That kind of, those kind of things, those kind of connections and ways of getting brands out there in other ways has always been really appealing to me, I guess. So yeah, again, did work for PlayStation for quite a while and then went to do a similar job for Xbox's agency. Worked on quite a lot of big launch things like Halo 3, Modern Warfare, some London Games Festivals and that sort of stuff. And then started doing things at Snowbombing and, recording stuff with Ellie Goulding and then doing stuff for Xbox Live. And so I've kind of always been intrigued by that brand element and how that comes together. Although typically I'm kind of an out-and-out events manager. So I was a European events manager at Bethesda, who make games, for those that don't know. So when Skyrim was launching, I was, events manager there doing events at Gamescom and stuff. And then from there, I was made redundant. So just kind of went, you know what, I'll set up my own company then. I kind of knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I'd helped out a lot of publishers in the past with support for games or events or whatever they wanted to do. I was kind of a bit of a conduit for them for getting kit and stuff like that. So yeah, had quite a lot of good contacts from that, fortunately. And yeah, ran my own consultancy for sort of 8 years after Bethesda, doing pretty much the same stuff, a lot of kind of smaller scale events as well. So company parties and things like that. Ran a few things for Creative Assembly and for Ubisoft, but then managing stages at Gamescom and shows like that, 250,000 people for
amazing.
And was doing that at E3 as well over in LA and, doing it at Paris Games Week and all that stuff. So it's kind of, I've been very fortunate to do the things that I've done, but again, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and kind of
you make your own luck sometimes, don't you?
My brother's really big into fate, but I can't get down with that because I'm like, well, no, I'm making these, I'm doing these things, it's up to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that, isn't it? It's like connections, isn't it? And not fate, but you might, like, for example, how we sort of connected. It was ADP's Mental Health Raid Train, and I played a track from A Good Life, didn't I? The brass version. And then you got a message and said, "Oh, I know the people who do this," and then we got chatting, and then obviously here we are, And it's like, well, if I'd played a different tune, maybe, we might have done, might have gone a different way. But it's you can't, people come into your lives, and then you sort of go with it. We might get, not just yet, but we'll get to Twitch in a bit. But obviously, because that's got a big crossover with gaming and events and all of that sort of side of things. But yeah, I'm just interested though, because I was talking to someone the other day about how they've been like a record dealer for about 30 years, but they've never DJ'd. Being at all these events, did you just not ever fancy DJing, or did you just never fall into it? Or
no, I don't. I've never really wanted to be the one in the limelight. Never really bothered by that. I'm a bit of I'm outgoing, confident, whatever, all the rest of it. But I'm not that bothered by being in the spotlight, and I'm not really a performer. I'd much rather kind of do the kind of cracking the whip and pulling stuff together backstage and production of stuff. Candy will tell you perhaps how sometimes I can try and crack the whip a bit hard when things aren't moving as they should be with the GFF.
Yeah.
I'll be polite.
So we have a lot of fun with stuff like that. But yeah, that's definitely my thing. And yeah, I've DJ'd at house parties and all the rest, but I can't pretend I've kept up with any of it. I love music. It's amazing, but I kind of
fair enough.
Of that. Again, being behind the scenes and kind of being a creative one, but also helping others try and achieve what they want to achieve, as you say, we'll come into that. But
yeah, definitely. I'm just going to pause there before I come to you, Kenny, because there's a few more people.
Sorry, I nailed it there.
Yeah. There's a few more people coming in the chat, so we're just going to say hello to that. We've got Mixter Hoffman over in Germany. We've got DJ Bill in Brazil. We've got my man, Double P. And I think we said hello to everyone else. But yeah, definitely. Right, Candy. So obviously you did get into DJing and obviously still do. So how did you first get into DJing?
So how did I first get into it? Probably around about the same time that I first started getting into hip hop. Because in where we grew up in northwest London, our house had a basement that was shared between a few blocks. So all the local kids, we had quite a crew. And we had some decks down there. So at the age of 6, 7, that's when I first started playing with decks.
Right.
And Yeah, it's I've always had decks around me. I've always played with records, and then since the age of about 18, I've always been playing out. I still don't really consider myself a DJ.
Okay.
I'm
In
just
terms
someone
of,
who enjoys
is it,
playing music.
yeah,
If
yeah,
I
yeah.
become successful doing it, then I'll call myself a DJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. I think especially with what we do with the 45s, we've got such different levels of DJ. You know, you've got your DMC turntablist, and then you've got your bedroom DJ, and you've got people who haven't even DJ before. But yeah, no, I see what you think. There's a bit of an imposter syndrome as well, isn't there?
But yeah, I mean that leads on to what we're going to talk about later as well.
Yeah,
Imposter syndrome is one of the biggest factors in my life. So
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And so I assume at that age you're buying records, and where are you buying your records from?
Oh god, back then it was all markets and shit. Camden especially.
Yeah,
Used to go to Soul shop in Camden all the time. So had Jazzy B teaching me about records and shit when I was a kid,
amazing,
which
amazing.
was all pretty cool. It was a good time to be in London, to be honest with you. It wasn't until later in life that I realised how fortunate I was to be there at that point.
At that particular point, yeah. So I
Yeah.
guess if you hadn't been, you might not have come across certain tracks or certain records, or perhaps even potentially even got into it. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it was probably Jazzy B who was first like, yeah, but do you know where that came from?
Right.
Which
Okay.
kind of sparked that interest of getting into the funk and soul and shit. But yeah, it wasn't really until like breaks and drum and bass started coming out that I started DJing out more, because I felt like people wanted to listen to that more than hip hop.
Okay.
Always found it hard to get hip hop bookings.
And was that just because hip hop? I guess the problem is hip hop. The UK hip hop has taken off, but it's never taken off quite as it should have done.
No,
It's
I mean
not
there's
as
some
not as big a thing
amazing
as it
UK
should
hip
be.
hop artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never really done as well
Yeah.
as the American. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And even things like breaks, drum and bass, all of that stuff. That's just keeps growing and growing and growing, doesn't it? But because I remember when we used to do events in Brighton, and that there'd be a weekly hip hop open mic thing and decks and stuff, and there'd be like the Brighton Hip Hop Festival and lots of things, and that all seems to have just sort of filtered away. It's still not as big now as it should be, I don't think.
No, never is, never will be, unfortunately, unless you're in the States. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a
But
real.
also, just saying that, it's some of the like hip hop nights that I've seen in places. It's all the modern hip hop that it just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us talk about the golden age of hip hop, don't we? The sort of 90s
Yeah.
and all the music, because that was when I think also the acts were freer to sample pretty much whatever they wanted.
Well, yeah.
As
Exactly.
soon as the copyright police sort of came in, and you're like, right, well, you can't have anything from that label. You're gonna have to pay for that label. It just changed it significantly, didn't it?
Massively. I mean, De La Soul were the fine example.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that album, you couldn't make that album now because it's just
yeah. What cracks me up about the re-release of that album, I'm so glad they managed to re-release all their stuff, but the Magic Number was my all-time favorite De La Soul tune, and one of my favorite samples in it is Eddie Murphy at the end of it going, "Does anyone in the audience ever get hit by a car?" And in that entire record, that was the one sample they couldn't get cleared.
Yeah.
So in the release of it, it now doesn't have that sample in it.
No,
it was disappointing.
Yeah. Mondo Kush is saying that in the US, the 50th anniversary of hip hop has been a big deal. It has been. There has been events here as well. Quite a few events in the UK, but probably not quite to the level that obviously in America.
BBC Radio 6, Huey show on Saturdays for a few weeks. He was him and his producer Tom Worley and also DJ Boba Fett. We're just killing it week on week. It was great.
At Boomtown, there was quite a lot of stuff as well to do with it. There's quite a few different random celebrations happening, and I know
they had a whole scratch competition, didn't they? DMC scratch competition.
They did the DMC there.
Yeah, we were stood down at the front, me and Maria, watching that, kind of going, "Holy shit, that's fucking like guy start." You know, the dude that won started with his turntable upside down.
Okay, right. I can't even imagine.
names now. I'm sure someone will stick his name in the chat, but he's one of like the scratch perverts, I think, but he's never won. So yeah, he just started with his turntable upside down. It's fucking brilliant, and it's great.
Amazing. Couple of points coming out of the chat. So T2 Funk, I think, agrees with you, Candy. Turn that new drill and grime off within seconds. That's a shite.
Breach.
And Dr. Hooker says that Huey is going to take that tour live, which is obviously the BBC Six Saturday morning show. So that could be
That would
really
be dope.
interesting. Yeah, definitely.
Huey off there.
Definitely. And I think T2 Funk's saying it's DJ Excel. Is it DJ Excel?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's he's part of the Scratch Pervert crew.
Yeah.
There's if I can, Criztoz, as well. I've just with hip hop. Then there's a really interesting article I read the other day, which was by Captain Barrett, actually, which I've just stuck into our chat here, and you can stick it in the chat as you will, or stick it in the notes. About this sort of similarity, the crossovers between Don't Laugh, Welsh hip hop, and hip hop from New York, and kind of how that's developed as well over the years, and the various different artists within that. So that's quite a cool.
The link is in the chat. Obviously, click on that, open a new tab, but read it after the show. Just keep listening to us. But yeah, Welsh hip hop. Okay, so immediately,
Goldie Looking Chains Soap Bar is one of the best hip hop tunes. One of the best hip hop tunes ever written.
I'm a big fan of Goldie Looking Chains. I think they supported Super Furry Animals, which is one of my favourite bands ever, on a gig. And so seeing those two acts in the same night was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. What's it got? Realizes J, I think it is. Realizes One.
Legend.
Yeah, welcome in, and Criztoz as well. Cool. Right. So this is part of my journey. So this is my first talk show that I started off the back of some comments that I had and discussions I had with Double P. And it's primarily about mental health, because obviously mental health has been really important, probably more so over the last few years since we've had the pandemic and how it's affected us. But we'll talk about the pandemic shortly. But Swanny, obviously you've been through at university quite a difficult time. Do you want to talk us through what you went through at that time?
Yeah. As I say, I was pretty preoccupied with music and everything else that goes on at uni, but I had, put it bluntly, I had testicular cancer. It was diagnosed quickly. I managed to get to a doctor pretty quickly after realizing it. And it was never really anything that was kind of in the time. I never really thought about it that much. I know that sounds incredibly arrogant, but it just sort of became one of those things. Okay, cool. Something else you've got to sort out. Let's crack on, because, I've got to do this work and I've got to do that work. And it sort of never became something that was damning or like, holy shit, this is going to be life ending. What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. I obviously had some incredible support from everyone around me. My parents were absolutely incredible and were coming down often to uni. My brother was around a lot, although he had just come back from uni in Australia on his gap year, and then was obviously loving walking around my university looking all tanned. And we wondering who this guy was. But no, he stayed and he was supporting me quite a lot through it, not to be flippant about it. So, yeah, I guess, it was a difficult time thinking back. It was obviously difficult kind of going to... it was in John Radcliffe Hospital. Thanks again to everybody there. Absolutely phenomenal team. It never really was something that was going to be more than a couple of years or something, that I had to dwell on, really. Even sort of in the dark hours at 3-4 a.m. in the morning, while there's much, much older guys suffering much, much worse things in a bed next to you. And that's where it gets really difficult, when you kind of see how it does affect others, and obviously does on a daily basis as well. So it was difficult, but my way of doing it was just getting on with it. And again, that sounds terribly arrogant, but not allowing it to kind of factor in that space of everyday thought, just to go, well, yeah, I've got to do that, but that's one of the other things. I've got to do this assignment next week. I've got to sort of dissertation out. I've got this to do, and just busying myself, with kind of getting on with the life that I had to live and had to do. It was never anything that was going to hold me back. So that whole sort of mindset, really, I'm a big believer in. I have no real religious basis. My mum's a Christian, my dad's kind of Buddhist Zen, and So I've got different impacts there, but I don't really have a religious grounding. I don't have that community kind of spirit in that sense. I just have the faith in, you know, me being able to do what I can do, and the human mind and body being an incredibly powerful thing when you use it in the right way. And sometimes, obviously, it can be an incredibly damaging thing when used in the wrong way. So, again, getting back to the cancer point, it was never something that was going to hold me back. It was always, let's crack on, let's get it done.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, thanks to everyone around me at the time for supporting with that. You know, it's just, again, something where you're going to have to allow yourself to go into that at some stages. You know, there's points of sadness in your life where you have to go, all right, I'm going to feel shit for a bit, but I know that there's something better. I know that this is going to be sorted out. Yeah. So it's kind of a passing thing. And I guess kind of, that the mental strength, the mental capacity for that came again a lot from sort of the Steiner teaching, flies around. And I think that's where, you know, I kind of try to lead, not having a religious faith necessarily, kind of just pushes me forward to do my own thing and be in control of my own decisions and what I'm doing. You know, going back to the point about fate earlier and what brought us together on this stream today. But yeah, so I guess that's, you know, airing into the mental health discussion, and as we will go into more stuff, that's that in a story. But I overcame it, and again, thanks to the people around me at the time.
I mean, I guess did it help? Obviously, that, I mean, so uni. So what were you, sort of 20, 21, that sort of age?
Yeah, it would have been 20 when it happened.
Yeah. So do you think that being at that age, largely when you're a teenager or sort of growing up, you think you're invincible, don't you? I think. Do you think that helped as well? Do you think there was an element of that? Well, you know, I've got the rest of my life, I'm going to get through it.
Yeah, definitely arrogance. And again, you know, not to be too light about it, but testicular cancer is one of the most treatable cancers, and every day now, even from 2000 to now, you know, brain cancer you can recover from.
Yeah,
there's all these other kind of advances in sciences. So I think that there was a lot of arrogance involved with it. Yeah, there was the arrogance of youth, and then just powering on, rather than, again, kind of dwelling on it and looking to introspect about it and going down the rabbit hole of dark thoughts with it, you know.
And I guess the other thing is like you're saying, you had lots of stuff, and, you know, keeping busy is a good way to sort of deflect and keep your brain active and stop, because, you know, if you are just sitting around, you know, maybe just watching TV and not doing anything, or not seeing anyone, or not having something to achieve for the next week, or, like you say, dissertation or a show, again, that probably helped as well, didn't it?
Yeah, stuff to keep you busy, definitely. And that's, you know, a big deal in a lot of different cultures as well. There's a really good show on Netflix at the moment, Live to 100, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's all about blue zones, so areas in the world where populations are living, you know, consistently over 100. So places like Okinawa, Sardinia, I think, and some places in LA. And it's all to do with kind of, well, you don't retire because your life is kind of work, and life is family, and life is going out and doing stuff and being active. There's no, all right, that's enough now, you can stop working. It's just, it's supposed to be all part of life. So you are walking up steps, so you are, you know, you've got these kind of ladies at the age of 90 carrying kilos of stuff up and down 100 flights of stairs every day, you know. And that,
I remember watching, I think it was a BBC documentary about Okinawa. This was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And again, it was, they just suddenly found Okinawa, and there's all these people living to like amazing ages, you know, and it was just quite a positive sort of thing, wasn't it? And Cy Brake said something important, you know, staying positive isn't arrogance. But I think, yeah, that's very well said, I think.
That's very true.
Definitely something to do. And, you know, it's not easy. It's not easy, and we'll get to sort of community and what's sort of been built up in a little while. But yeah, it's easy to say be positive, not always the easiest thing. But if you can, it does sort of help, doesn't it?
And I think there's some other stuff within that. There's various different techniques and ways to deal with those things as and when they come up, and everything else. You know, I'm aware I've spoken for quite a while, so I'll let Candy have a chat and then perhaps come back.
Yeah, Candy. So. A couple of things that obviously you've sort of let me know about in advance of the show, about things that, you know, we'll be talking about, is depression and anxiety. So when did you first I mean, I don't know if you got diagnosed initially or whether you first became aware that you were depressed.
So
When did it
I
sort
mean,
of
it
first?
started a long fucking time ago. So
Yeah.
when I was at school,
Right. Okay.
there was people who realised something wasn't right, and I was seeing a shrink.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's been something that's been kind of around my entire life. There's been long periods of my life where I've ignored it by
Right.
doing lots of drugs.
Okay.
Much earlier on in my life, I have to say.
Yeah.
And at the time, it worked. I mean, I'm still alive, so yay. But yeah, no, it's always been there. When living in France, I kind of had a massive breakdown, probably about 4 years ago now. 4 or 5
Right.
years ago, and after that I went to see a doctor, and that's the first time in a long time since my early 20s I went to see a doctor about it. And my doctor was fantastic. She was brilliant. She taught me through lots of stuff, tried me on a mixture of different drugs to see what worked, and that worked. That was brilliant. That helped with everything, helped with my anxiety, which then helped with my depression, which meant I could sleep. And the depression thing I seem to have like a handle on. The anxiety. So when we moved to Spain, jumping around all over the place. When we moved to Spain a couple of years ago, I decided then that I was going to stop taking the drugs for my mental health, because I
Right.
figured I didn't want to rely on them as a crutch.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have them in my life all the time. So initially it was all fine and everything was great, but then the anxiety starts creeping in again. And lately I've been battling with that quite a lot. Yeah.
So I guess I'm making a big assumption. Is it sort of waves that sometimes
Yeah,
you're
massively. And
okay and other times you're not?
yeah, and there's things that bring it up as well, and it's like it's the smallest of things, and it just sets you off, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like that's your day just absolutely ruined. But yeah, I tried. There's certain things that I can see happening that I'm like, yeah, okay, I can get myself out of this situation. But then there's sometimes when it just creeps up. I can feel it creeping up, and it can go over the course of weeks, and then suddenly that's it. It just slaps you in the face, and you just want to spend all day in bed.
And what do you do? Obviously, you talked about medication. What else do you do to try and get you out of that sort of spiral?
Oh, I smoke a shitload of weed. No, hobbies. So
Okay.
I figured keeping myself active is
Yeah.
always good. So like I do lots of woodworking. I was a chef for 17 years. I am no longer, so I cook a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff that keeps me busy, so I don't have time to think about it.
Yeah. And again,
Thinking isn't good for me.
no, and it's sort of echoing what we were discussing with Swanny a minute ago, isn't it? If you've got stuff, there's only so much headspace, isn't there? And obviously, if you've got lots of things to be thinking about, hopefully it pushes the darker thoughts or the bad thoughts out, because you're filling them with good stuff that you're doing. Obviously, they're always there; they don't go away, and anything can trigger you at any moment. But like you say, it's trying to fill your life with stuff. Because Swanny, you said one of the things is you've got some tips potentially about living with your feelings rather than allowing yourself sort of free fall.
Yeah, I think again, it's not necessarily tips, points of advice, and pearls of wisdom or anything like that. It's just more conversationally, I guess. What I've done and how I've gone through it, because what occurred to me is there is a lot of advice out there. There's a lot of talk about mental health, and that's brilliant. It's a very fashionable topic. I hate to put it in that way, but it is, and
No, definitely.
That's a good thing for everybody to be
I
doing
mean,
that.
yeah, it's a great thing that it is that people are talking about it more. Yeah.
But what it kind of most of the stuff that I read, it sort of became clear that it's very much, holy shit, I went through a terrible thing. Now I'm better. You can be better too. Okay, there's a lot of kind of niceness in that, but not necessarily a lot of kind of ways of dealing with things or techniques as they come up. And I guess, there's various counseling techniques within things like grievance or divorce and everything else and things like that. But I think there's not enough talk about how you kind of live your everyday life and kind of go, do you know what? Actually, I just need to switch off for a couple of days now.
Yeah.
And there's periods in your life where you can kind of recognize, oh, I had a little wobble there, or I kind of, and you can just go, do you know what? I'm just going to have a lie down and I'm just going to take it in my stride. And I don't need to respond to messages and I don't need to answer email. I think a lot of the way that everyone obviously success driven leads their lives, and there's a lot of pressure now on families as well for their kids to achieve and everything else, you know, and there's this huge anxiety about so many other things.
Yeah.
Really, that's born in and of yourself. You know, it's not your fault that you see people achieving on Britain's Got Talent, but you can affect how you feel about that. Do you know what I mean? And kind of success is different to every individual. It used to be 100 years ago, you know, we're in no different state of poverty versus class and everything else. All of that stuff is still exactly the same. So I think there's a lot of, you know, just kind of realizing within that you can only, you can't affect the thing that's happening. You can only affect the way you feel about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, within that, when you start to work under those sort of parameters, or when you start to live under those parameters, you suddenly kind of go, oh, shit. Well, there's no point in me worrying about this, or this, because
you can't control it.
Can't control it anyway,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's the social media life now. Everyone's worried about everything all the time. And obviously, we all need to dial back a bit and have a slower pace of life. And we all need to eat better. We all need to do all those things. But there's kind of some key stuff that you can do within hearing the news, you know, shouting at the telly, all of that stuff kind of comes into play within that sort of mentality of, well, I can scream because Hamilton's not beating Vettel, but it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. I'm just going to warm myself up and my blood pressure is going to rise. You know what I mean? I understand passion, that aside, but you know, there's various things that happen, bar floods and lightning and acts of God. You can do very little about most stuff. So just have a think about how you're dealing with those decisions you're making and how you're feeling when any action happens, because you couldn't go to that event, because you can't go for a dinner because something's happened at school. You know, that's all on you, how you feel about those things.
Definitely. And we've got some good comments in the chat as well. So Biscuit Kitten, I feel it's like a big thing to accept that you need a day or a few sometimes to not beat yourself up. When you can do that, I think you can heal and get back to it more quickly. Social media, we've got Criztoz. Social media adds more pressure than we all need to deal with anyway. Only us can decide how to filter. Easier said than done, though. But it's true, isn't it? Because we're constantly getting notifications on your phone, constantly getting messages on different platforms, and there's this. So I mean, I'm guilty of it. You know, I feel that I've got to respond when I get a message, because if I don't respond, I'm going to forget it, and I might forget to do something, or I might annoy someone because I haven't got back to them. And you know, sometimes I need to just switch off, and it's very difficult sometimes. But it is that constant pressure, and also seeing what other people are doing. And I think it takes a long time to realize that you can't compare yourself to other people. Ultimately, you know, every person is different. Everyone's got a different path. Everyone's got a different journey. Everyone's doing different things. You can't say, oh, why is that person doing better than me? Or why has that person got more viewers? Or why is that person, you know, selling more records or whatever? Because it just leads you down this ridiculous path, you know.
What is it? The Baz Luhrmann song at the end of that is, you know, don't waste your time on jealousy. The race is long and it's just only with yourself. Like
that whole record is just genius. Every word of that needs to be listened to and respected.
Yeah. And Mondakush says the world moves so fast now, it's a lot to process, which is an interesting concept when we get to the pandemic, because I think the pandemic forced us all to sort of slow down for a period of time. And I think everyone at that point was like, okay, there's a lot going on, but it's almost quite nice that there's less going on. We're not in the rat race anymore. We're not doing that. And I think certainly I thought, oh, I wonder if we'll go back to how it was before. And it seems that we're still filling our lives with lots of stuff and still doing it. But I think we could learn quite a lot. And we'll talk about the pandemic in a minute. But Candy, coming back to you, the picture that you sent me to put on the flyer, I believe was from Shindig this year.
Yeah, no, the year before.
Year before. And I think you said that, you know, you sort of hands up and, you know, it looks like you're having a great time, but you explained that inside was a very different story.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us about that?
So basically, I am quite a social recluse. It's, you know, I the last couple of places I've lived in, it's always been kind of out in the sticks somewhere. I like to be left alone, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I love Shindig. It's my favourite festival. I last went
Yep.
there before that in 2018, but we'll get to that later. And yeah, the thought of going didn't even cross my mind. But then the lovely community on Twitch, led by Laura Luna Stone, got me a ticket and paid for my flights and everything. So
Amazing.
kind of forced my hand. And Laura will own up to this. She was like, I know you're going to say no, but you're going to do it. And I did it, and it was all good. But yeah, I was very much out of my depth at that point. I was I ended up taking a day to myself.
Right.
During a festival.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you got through it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you always get through it. Yeah, but on the Sunday I was back again, and I was able to enjoy the day. But yeah.
And I guess there's also a lot of expectation, isn't there? So I forgot to ask, were you DJing, or were you there just as a guest? Or
no, I was just, so 2018 I DJ'd there, and that was the last time that I DJ'd as well. That's when I hung up my DJing kit.
Right. Okay.
Until the pandemic. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of pressure, isn't there, when you go to a festival? Whether you're a punter or whether you're you don't want to waste any time. You want to make sure you're having the best time, and everyone else is having a great time. There's a lot of pressure at festivals. I mean, they should be a great, fun, relaxing time, but if you're struggling, they can be a bit of an issue, can't they?
Yeah, massively. And I mean, everyone who was there, because I was there with a big community of people, the whole Twitch fam. I felt like a freaking celebrity. It was awesome. And all of them would be like, hey, why didn't you talk to me? And it's like, because I didn't actually want to talk to anyone about it. I just wanted to be left alone and just deal with it the way I dealt with it, which is why I live out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. So I can just be left alone and deal with shit the way I want to deal with shit. It's probably not the best, healthiest way to live life, but it kind of works for me.
Yeah, and again, it takes time to find what is going to work for each individual person, doesn't it? And if it works for you, then why change it? Just do it. We've got Laura in the chat, so big love to Laura there.
Big love to Laura.
All right,
Kempola as well has joined. So hello, and yeah, and there's also a thing we talk about quite a lot on here is like we've already mentioned on it, imposter syndrome, because a lot of the time, we think as DJs that we are very confident, very outgoing, all the rest of it, but we still hide behind decks or hide behind controllers or whatever, because although you feel like you're social, sometimes you don't always feel like it. But also it comes back to this sort of imposter syndrome, doesn't it? Where
which I suffer from massively. So there's been a couple of times recently when I've thought, okay, maybe I am all right at this shit. Because most of the time I think, why do people watch this? Anyone can do this. Anyone who can count to 4 can do this. So,
right.
But why are people watching me? And then, it was during the Norbski battles, the final battles, where I had to send in a 20-minute video. Yeah. And then had to actually watch it. So normally, as much as you try and watch all the chat that's going on, you can't. But I got to sit down and actually watch all the chat that was going on. And all the comments are going on. And I was like, well, fuck me. Okay, maybe I am all right at this stuff.
Yeah.
But
then he's saying it's the hats and the flowery shirts for him.
Exactly, Scott. It's not the DJing, it's the shirts. Everyone just likes my bare chest.
We talked about that earlier. I was saying you're going to keep your nipples inside on the show because we don't want to get banned by Twitch. It seems to be anything that's sort of stopping people now. But yeah, we're touching on Twitch, but we're almost there. We're almost there because there's a lot to talk about Twitch. But let's jump to the pandemic then. So, Swanny, let's talk about what happened with the pandemic and obviously the sort of setting up of GFF.
Yeah, so when I was at Sega at the time, so I just kind of I had my consultancy. Another good mate of mine, Rich, who Chris knows very well and Si knows very well, just kind of said, hey, we've got this job going at Sega, you might want to take it. So went for an interview there, got it, and kind of never really thought about doing anything else then. But obviously COVID struck. So being a global events manager with no events to organize kind of leaves you at home, all hours of the day. And I was living in a kind of, not pokey, but it was 2 up, 2 down in Stockwell. It was kind of very much old houses, low lighting, all that kind of stuff, that goes along with that. So hearing people moving around you all day and kind of, you can hear everything happening around you, but you don't ever see anybody. And it was a really sort of odd time. So that led a lot of people just to try and escape a bit of that, right? By DJing online or by doing comedy shows online and all that sort of stuff. And I worked with a few ex-clients doing some comedy bits and bobs. That was really good fun. But a good mate of mine, Jack Nash, Hong Kong Ping Pong, who a few will know, obviously.
Yeah.
Started DJing on Twitch, and I went, okay, cool. I've just been doing esports events and everything else. Like, I'll teach you what Twitch is and how it works and what you do with it, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of around that time when Cy came down to visit me, Cy Breaks, and I was kind of chatting about this and went, this is what we're doing. And he went, do you know what? You can kind of automate a lot of that, and you can do these kind of things to make it a lot easier for people to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then Jack kind of went, well, I know a few other DJs, and Candy will tell you about how he got on board, but I know a load of other DJs, and we could start doing a thing here. So I just went, all right, so Jack, I'm going to crack on with not organizing events and doing stuff over here. You guys have fun with some of that. So I was still obviously working with Jack and helping him to build the channel and kind of figure out how to use emotes and how to subscribe and everything else. And then, we all kind of, when the Thursday thing started up, I guess that's when it sort of formalized properly. And again, I'll let Candy talk about that, but we each kind of have our own roles to play within the fam. So, I'm much more kind of marketing and branding and stuff like that. But we just thought, okay, what are we actually creating? And
I'm just here for the eye candy.
Yeah, right. Very quickly, Cy created Discord. We on Mondo Kush to help Cy out with that and help out with some socials and help with some of the modding stuff, and we just sort of started to assemble this thing and go, oh, okay, brilliant, great. And that's, as we've developed it over the years, it's been phenomenal. I know we've got some clips of the Funkies coming up as well, but that's what we've sort of tried to do really is give people advice, give streamers advice on how to stream, what they should be doing, how they should think about their channels, and that's what we're doing a lot more lately. Similio might have testified to this, that when new GFF artists come on board now, we take the time out to have a call with them and try and find out what they're about, what's going on, and what they want to achieve really. So kind of spending a bit more time trying to understand them as an artist and go, okay, this is the sort of stuff that you might want to check out. I think, essentially Twitch is just Wayne's World again, isn't it? It's anybody can broadcast, anyone can do a thing.
Yeah, excellent.
Some are better at things than other people. That's everybody has their own.
It's what we love, because obviously we're in 2023 now. When most of us started back in 2020, we didn't really know what we were doing. I mean, when the first Twitch thing I did was a charity thing for a local nightclub here, and we got a few DJs, and the guy said Twitch. I'd done a bit of streaming. And then me and Mr. Love and the 45 Kings organised a 24-hour live stream from our, but I didn't know what we were doing. Even people coming in, and why haven't you got subs on? I was like, what the hell subs? Didn't have any idea. And it's amazing how we've all worked together. And I love community. I love the sense of community that you've built, and you've all got different roles, and you're all working together for the greater good. If one person can grow, that person can grow, then that can grow, and then that can grow. And it's so interesting. What's been achieved,
and it feeds a great many things. It fulfilled my need for creative stuff to do and work on and help people out with while I wasn't doing events. Similarly for Cy, I know it ticked a few switches for him in terms of projects to work on and everything else. DJs all over the place, exactly the same situation. They just wanted to do stuff to keep the powder dry. It was like, well, I'll sort of do this. So everybody help everybody. Yeah, exactly. So
and you've mentioned Similio, having that intro call is a great personal touch that I haven't seen in any other community I've joined. So there you go.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Definitely. So, Candy, how did you then get involved? Because obviously you'd given up. You said you'd stopped DJing around 2018, and obviously we're now.
So I played Shindig 2018, and that was when I had my massive anxiety attack and decided I was going to stop DJing forever. But stop playing events forever. still DJ at home, but start playing events.
Right.
And then not Disco Stew, Codis, call him by
Yeah.
his Twitch name. Him and I lived near each other, and I've known him for years and years and years. And he was DJing on Twitch, and he was like, "Oh, you should give it a go, you know, have a little punt." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not really interested, to be honest." Excuse me. And then he gave me a call, and this was during the lockdowns and everything. Luckily, we lived so close to each other, I could get to his house by a forest path that no one saw us. And he just bought the new Rain 12 and Rain 72s.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, do you want to come play with these?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck yeah, I do." So I went over to his place, started playing with them, and then he was like, "Yeah, we're streaming on Twitch." So he was a cheeky bastard. And
Right.
that was
You didn't
that was like the last day of
streaming.
yeah, that was the last day of May in 2020.
Right.
And I'd obviously I'd got a Twitch account before that because I was watching Codis play. And then because of that, because I was part of the Ghetto Funk family from years back, found all the old Ghetto Funk crew. So I started following all of them. And then, it was 3 days later, June the 4th, Crash Party said, "We're doing this Raid Train thing. Saw that you're now on Twitch. Are you streaming?" And it was like, "Yeah, okay, fuck it, why not?" So, did a Raid Train with Hong Kong Ping Pong, Mr. Fitz, Crash Party, me, raiding to A-Skills on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And that is what basically, in my mind, became the GFF. And then it was Crash, Psy, Jack, and Detta that were starting the GFF. And then it was Crash and Detta got in touch with me quite early on and said, "Do you want to be involved?" I was like, "Oh, yay, include me."
And how? Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different way of DJing, isn't it? And I guess, is that why you were quite happy to sort of take it up again?
Oh no, I was really fucking nervous about it, and the anxiety levels were back there again, especially talking on a mic. I don't like talking on mics.
But that's the other thing, isn't it? As DJs, unless you're sort of, the old school sort of DJ, it's very rare that DJs talk much on the mic, other than say, "Come on, guys," or whatever. It's amazing how we've all adapted.
Oh yeah, it's amazing how many DJs have adapted to it and adapted so well. The fact that instead of just DJing, we're now DJing, we're broadcasting, we're presenting. It's quite interesting. And like you were saying with the whole Twitch thing, I just love the community aspect of it. It's like you play at a festival. When it's coming up to your set time, say you're playing on the hour, 2 minutes past the hour, you're giving the guy before you the eye saying, "Come on, mate, it's my fucking time." On Twitch, people raid just bang on time. They don't have to, they just fucking do it, and I love that.
It's because it's not a competition, is it? We're not competing against each other. Especially if you're on the raid train, again, you're working for the bigger good, whatever that raid train is. It's a birthday celebration, whatever it is. But everyone's really respectful as well.
It is, and I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Just seeing what Mondakush is saying. He's saying, as more people recommended old school DJs for me to see live in Denver, I noticed they never talked, which is true, because it's just not. You don't tend to go to a gig expecting the DJ to be talking to you or talking at you or saying what the record is or anything like that. It's just generally just music, isn't it? But it is definitely community, and we were talking a little bit about this before the show. You've got your community of sort of streamers, and then you've got your community of sort of mods, and then you've got the community of sort of viewers who don't stream but are there to support the chat. There's all these different elements of community, and bringing everyone together again for the sort of greater good. And the way I describe it is, it's quite a safe space, isn't it? If you're going to be on a particular channel, it's going to be cool, and even if you haven't been there before, you might know someone who's in the chat, or you might know the community.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
and that's the bigger picture, isn't it?
That's There was. I mean, it formed again organically. Hate to use the word, but I'm a marketer, so there we are. That sort of formed organically, where we found, okay, well, there's artists that can use this thing to go, look at me, look at my new music, and talk to other artists. There's the community who can go, oh, great, I can be directly in touch with that artist and send a message and get to know them personally as well. There's a lot of DJs that I've seen at various festivals this year who've gone, oh, you're XYZ from the chat, or you're that, and they kind of, you know, genuinely vibe off that, and that's been really cool. But again, to the community at large during the pandemic, it was a place for parents to put up on a projector while they were making dinner. It was a place for, you know, kids to kind of after school and that sort of stuff to get on with their favorite streamers and stuff. So it started to become part of people's, well, not everyday lives, but certainly weekly lives, you know, joining different trains and stuff. But not only that, they were talking to each other, because you spend time, you know, there's this psychology point, isn't it? You have to spend, is it 8 hours with somebody before you feel you can trust them fully? Like,
okay,
there's that happens in the chat all the time with people. You know, you've already spent hours with these people making jokes sometimes about the worst things you can think about, you know, and that's really cheered you up. Or you've had those interactions where it's kind of, oh shit, yeah, I've seen them in 6 or 7 different streams. They've introduced me to this streamer. So there's an element of trust builds up in that, you know, and we haven't got a manifesto, but we did discuss having "Don't be a dick" be number 1 on the manifesto. And
don't be a dick.
The community do kind of feel when you arrive somewhere. I think Shindig this year was one of the best examples of it. But also Tutti Frutti, the first one that we all kind of went to together, you know, it was just people meeting and going, holy shit, you are just a normal person and this is cool, and we don't have to do all of the preamble chat. We all kind of know each other. And that a lot of my friends that, like Chris has been on a few of the boat parties with Sai and Rich and another couple of others as well. And now I know Similio and that lot, they're all going to boat party this weekend, you know, and those guys that my friends who I've known for years that are just coming to that and seeing those real life connections are going, oh shit, right, I get that now. They still probably won't come to Twitch often, you know, but they understand the connecting and the community around it. So that's what I love out of it as well.
And as Sai was saying, it's now sort of creeping into real life events, and you know, just the last couple of weekends, you know, I've done stuff with the 45s community, and it's been great. First of all, meeting DJs who I've seen stream, but we've never met in person, and having that connection. But also some of the people who just view, like we had Jarful, New Wave Next Day, and we had Fergs and Clarence, and all these people who were just there, and you can suddenly put a face to a name from Twitch. But you still, because you've had all these hours, like you say, you feel like you've been mates for years. It's like seeing an old mate, you know, or someone you haven't seen for a long time. You know, you just, there's none of the small talk, there's none of the bullshit. You just, and you feel comfortable. Like you say, it's the trust element is, and it's only going to get bigger, isn't it? You know, it's as events get bigger, and then at some point it will be like the festival Toby put on, you know, Sucker Fest, you know, and you just curate your audience and have people there who are all part of the community or slightly expanded community, and you've got a great vibe, just like you would have if you were doing a stream or a live event on Twitch.
And that's not to make it sound exclusive as well. Sorry, I'll shut up in a sec, but it's not to make it sound like, oh yeah, it's you can only attend these events if you're part of the Discord and you're part
exactly.
It's like, oh, you've got a mate that's coming along to a thing, brilliant, you know, just come along and let's all have a chat, as long as they're not a dick. It's cool.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's a bit like what we do with our events. You know, because of what we do, I've been doing events in the UK and, like, you know, Cambridge, Edinburgh, wherever. And it's always like, right, what local DJs are there? They don't have to be even on Twitch. A lot of them don't even normally play 45s. They just took up an offer. Oh, come and spin some 45s. And they come along and they're like, wow, this is great. You know, you've got a really cool community and all the rest of it. And it's lovely just being able to spread that passion and joy, because being positive is quite infectious, isn't it? I think, you know, coming back to what we were talking about earlier about trying to be as, if you can be positive, is definitely something you need to do. Right, we've got a couple of videos to show. So obviously they're from the Funkies. So Candy, I know you sort of hosted that. Do you want to talk us a little bit about how the Funkies came about?
So the Funkies was, I mean, as we say, the Global Funk Fam is very much a community-driven project. So we needed a way of awarding the people within that project with some kind of an award show. So I can't remember who came up with the name of the Funkies, but that's one we went with. That's one we're sticking with. Year 3 is coming up at the end of the year. But yeah, no, it was just a nice way to reward the community for sticking with us, really.
Yeah, and it creates.
I don't know, Swanny, do you want to add to that?
No. It's a good cause for celebration, right? It was a good cause to go, look, we've had some really cool stuff happen this year, and we should probably do some sort of annual thing with it, right? And yeah, that's what was born of the Funkies. And I think there's also, again, going back to different people's roles within the fam is the easiest way of putting it. You know, where Crash is very clearly a designer, an artist. Candy has worked on some huge tour stuff in terms of video. I'll let him talk about that after. Si's, again, you know, really, really big in IT. Sorry, Si, that's horrible. But we've each got quite good experience in our areas, and the Funkies was born out of a bit of that as well, because we could all go, well, I can produce events and I can do some videos, and that's kind of what the Funkies came really. I think the first video is the sort of the introduction bit of some of the artists that were involved from the start.
Well, let's have a look at that. I hope I've got the right video, but I think I have. There we go.
Yo, Funk Fam! Canadian Breaking here. Big love to each and every single member of the Global Funk Fam. Congrats to everyone on the Funkies, on the nominations, on the winners, everything. Big love to every single one of you. Thank you so much. I've had so much fun with you guys. Mwah.
Massive love from the Colonel to the Global Funk Fam. Cheer!
Big ups GFF and the Funkies. This is Farbsy Funk out of Toronto, making Funky Collective and host of Funk Raiders.
What a fam, what a crew. So glad of all of you guys.
Hey there, Global Funk Fam's Crash Party here. Just want to say for all the support over the last year. It's been amazing. And congratulations to every single one of the Funkies winners. You guys deserved it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye now.
Big ups, Global Funk Fam, and happy Funkies.
Much love all around the globe. Big ups to everybody involved. This has truly been an incredible year. I just want to say big ups.
DJ Tanner, oh my Lanta!
Muchísimas gracias, Global Fan Fan. Love you guys, we love you.
Yes, what's good, Global Funk Fam? Big ups. Cheers for all your support.
And then throws
Thank you, everyone. Big up the GFF. Nailed it. Love you.
Hey fams, what's going on? WelshSwanny here. Just wanted to say a quick hello and thank you to all of the artists that we've had in the past, all of the raid events, the community streamers, of course, and of course all of the mods that have been helping keep everyone in check as well. Sit back, you're in for a great night. 3, 2, 1.
There we go. And the great thing is, for me, watching that again, is the sort of crossover, because I've had quite a few people on my show. Like Farbsy's been on my show, Tanner's been on my show, Colonel, and it's great to have this amazing community, but also that we can connect with other communities as well. That's what I love, and I think that's how, as Twitch, we're going to sort of grow and grow and grow, aren't we? Bringing all these amazing communities together.
Yeah, exactly.
For a bigger thing.
Global Funk Fam, next fam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And because you're doing stuff for them, aren't you? And then obviously we've done a 45-day 45 Kids monthly that we're doing. Yeah. And again, it's not a competition. We're all collaborating. We're all working together.
And big up
lots of love in the chat.
Big up Si for sorting the next fam stuff, and Liam UK as well. Those two are sort of championing that as you and me are, Criztoz with ours as well. And you're absolutely right. It's just kind of, yes, there's saturated audiences within what everyone's watching, but let's bring some new stuff to that. I think that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, and also, we've been doing it for 3 years, and obviously when we first started, it was relatively simple, wasn't it? Right, you DJ and whatever, and then obviously raid trains happened and all the rest of it. And to keep it interesting for us, we have to keep evolving and coming up with new ideas and new things to also entertain our viewers and our audience, don't we? So if you just sort of rest on your laurels and just do the same thing, people eventually will get bored, like we will. And it's the same as DJing, isn't it? If you're doing the same,
I feel attacked.
Yeah. I'm not meaning to attack anyone, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's sort of the way that it sort of goes,
and that's that's exactly the ethos again. Candy was saying about how he got involved with it was being asked I'll let him tell the origin story, but that's exactly how it grew. You know, how that happened was it how it grew. I was kind of on the sideline of that in a minute. Is that your dog, Andy?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear that? He's up on the roof barking at something.
He's just waiting to hear your story of how you joined the fam, I think. Smooth.
Yeah, go on. Let's do that then. I think have you talked about it? I'm trying.
Yeah, I've pretty much talked about it. It's
Yeah.
Crash and Detta that got me on board. Well, basically, it was Crash getting in touch with me saying, "Hey, do you want to be part of this thing? Yeah, we've just built this Discord, blah blah blah." I was like, "What the fuck is Discord?" So then I got on the Discord, and then Detta called me, and I hadn't spoken to Adam for a couple of years at this point, and he was like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Blah, blah. Yeah, it's really nice to talk to you. It's like, yeah, just post like loads of photos all over it, so there's some like stuff on there. I was like, okay, sweet. How you doing? He's like, yeah, gotta go. Bye. So basically, he just wanted me in there to populate it with pictures of DJs and shit.
Right. Yeah.
Out of that was born the Thursday train as well, which, I guess, we'll talk about that more in the Twitch section as well. But that Thursday thing just kind of grew organically. And then, there's, as I say, there's the next video, which was celebrated at the Funkies.
Yeah, let's do it. So this is the second video we've got today.
It is A-Skills. Now, we did ask A-Skills if he could play a set tonight on message. So let's go over to that.
What you gonna play now? Bobby? I don't know. Fuck it. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, make it fun. Make it fun.
Guys, I do not know. I can't believe we're at the awards ceremony. I can't believe we're at the awards ceremony for the internet DJing that we started just over a year ago. Absolutely mental. Yeah, incredible, guys. Thank you so much for the artist of the year and funkiest raid event for Stream Raiders. Absolutely blown away. Absolutely blown away. Yeah, thank you guys so much for just the Global Funk Fam support has been absolutely incredible. Yeah, we've just all been in it together, like we had to figure it all out at the start, and I was calling up Jack, Hong Kong Ping Pong, to ask him to help me make some emotes, and asking Detta what Discord is and how to use it. And yeah, I once had to call Dom Maribel. He accidentally tipped me 300 crazy times, and it's been a mad adjustment. But yeah, with all the support, it's just been been the silver lining to lockdown, as I know it has been for a lot of people. Just incredible, and just everyone that raids in on a Thursday. I know there's a whole train behind the Candyman, starting with Jack or starting with Sam Tweaks, and and the whole crew. And yeah, definitely it never goes unnoticed. And it's all about the bridge. All about the bridge on this one. 50p. I just got that for 50p. I was only going in for a bookcase. But yeah, James Brown, make it funky. 50p, bargain.
Brilliant.
Love that dude.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Because he's like legendary, amazing producer, DJ, talking about getting into streaming like we all had to, and asking people for help, and asking people, how do I do this? What do I do here? What do I, and everyone's been willing and more than happy to help everyone out, and I know I've helped loads of people. You guys have helped loads of people, I'm sure. And again, there's that, isn't there? There's no competition. It's like, yeah, let's get you streaming. Let's get you on there. Let's get, you want to do it? Let's help you. Let's do it.
Yeah, massively. And yeah, that's what I love using my channel for now, because I don't see myself as being a big DJ or anything, but I have a nice community that I can introduce new people to, and that's what the GFF is as well. It's just introducing new people to new people. Love that shit.
And it's the whole, everyone follow everyone. I love that about Twitch. I mean, yeah, exactly. And it's because you don't get that a lot in other you certainly don't get that in real life, do you? You know, if you go to an
No.
event, because you can't immediately follow someone. You know, yeah, you might meet some DJs or whatever, but you can't do it. But the fact that we're all there saying, "Oh, yeah, you like me? Okay, well, go and follow these people, or go and do this people, or whatever," and including new streamers and streamers who've only just started. You know, I mean, I love when we do our 45s events, getting people who maybe haven't done many 45s events or whatever. And I assume it's the same with you guys when you, like you said earlier, Swanny, about getting new streamers in and getting new GFF artists. You know, that it must be great, sort of starting their streaming career or sort of getting onto GFF.
Yeah, with a lot of them, it's been very interesting to see how those have panned out as well. I think, you know, there's you guys were talking earlier about your different strengths and things like that, and obviously Criztoz, you're very good at presenting and interviewing and back and forth, as is, you know, Sam Tweaks. We all love him for his ability to mix and chat and be funny. You know what I mean? And so different people have different things that they can do, and the same with TV broadcasting and presenting. You know, it's like, why are you trying to be the best scratch person you can be if your thing that you do very well is to juggle tunes and do something else? You know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily have to have all of that in your arsenal. In the same way, you don't need to be an amazing presenter to be able to play great music, you know, unless you're scratch bastard. You're not paying your mortgage with Twitch, let's be honest. So it's very difficult for DJs, Twitch streamers, I think, and in the same way as for gaming streamers, to know and find what their thing is. Like, what are they best at? What are people going to watch me for? And I think that's key to understand on the start of that journey, is to go, okay, well, I'm not going to find out for 6 months. I'm going to practice a lot of stuff, but is it in making the best rewards that I can make? Is it in, you know, being a good back and forth presenter, chatting? And that's what I think people are finding quicker now than obviously at the start. So yeah, it's been great to see that. And I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't have this section go without talking about two big success stories from that. Obviously, there's loads of them, Mac and loads of others as well, Macudut and loads of the guys over the pond. But from here, someone like Maria, who's been DJing in Madrid and playing out there very well. You know, she was a massive fan of Hong Kong Ping Pong. And then this summer has had, you know, a great summer of festivals here in the UK as well, and played places like Rotterdam, which is huge. So that's kind of been a good step into that, to be able to promote yourself with that. And then Chalky as well, Chalky99, he's, you know, was a bedroom DJ, kind of, he's great at just back and forth and shouting and DJ and being a presence, if you like. And he, through that and through doing what he did best, he played at Mad Cool on the same stage as Red Hot Chili Peppers, you know. So like, there are those things, you can do all those things, you've just got to use your
and it's also coming back to what we were saying earlier about the community and the sort of safe space. You know, if it's a GFF event or a raid train or whatever, you know, there's going to be certain people in the chat, there's going to be a certain vibe, there's going to be a certain community. And similarly to like Funklectic and you know, all the other raid trains and the stuff that we do, and Soul Train and all the rest of it. And I think that's what people also buy into, isn't it? You know, they may not 100% be into the music, but if there's good people to hang out with, then it's all good. We seem to have lost Candy for a minute. Probably log back in again in a minute. But again, it's almost like, if you go, I talk a lot about Twitch, and if I'm trying to explain to someone who's not on Twitch what raid trains and stuff are about, I try and explain it's like, right, okay, we could be on a pub crawl. We go to this pub, and I'm saying, right, let's all go to the next pub. Or you could be at a festival, right? We're checking out this DJ. Let's go to this other stage and check out this DJ. And it's a lot like that, isn't it? You know, you're sort of bringing people together, but also the curation of the artists in putting on an event or putting on a raid train, isn't it? That's so important, and getting the right order. And
it definitely is. And it does, you know, you're I don't know, there's an element of fixed raid trains where it's kind of the same people week to week, and those are brilliant. You know, those kind of evolve and build more audiences and everything else. There's a lot of people curating, as you say, those raid trains. And as you see in real life festivals, people curate a certain stage and bring their favorite artists to, you know, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see how a lot of that's come together. And again, people that have never been interested in marketing or know anything about how to promote or do any of that, they've kind of found a good niche in being able to go, oh, cool, I can get my friends to do a thing. I can do a flyer, and, oh, you know, I've produced something there and feel good about that. So I was just messaging Candy on the side just to see if he's all right. I'll let you know.
It may just be his
It's got no 2 ticks, so I assume there's some internet problem going.
Some internet problem. Okay, that's right. We can carry on for a little bit.
Yes.
He'll rejoin us.
But it'd be interesting. Like, I know the talk is with us, but it'd be interesting to hear from you how you kind of gravitate to not just that, but how you found it's helped your professional career. You know, obviously being able to use it to promote, or has it helped you develop anything differently that you've already been done?
I think it's been interesting. I mean, I've always put on DJ nights from not quite when I first started, but quite soon after. And lots of events, and then I've worked with other people again, and we've put on like one day country pub raves and things like that. So I was already sort of in that field and designing flyers and stuff, but it's just taking it to the next sort of level, you know, because you're doing it on here, and certainly my graphic design skills have improved markedly, and social media skills and all the rest of it, because it's like, okay, well, you need to be putting stuff out, but it's also building the community. And it's great being able to connect with people and say, okay, yeah, you know, you've got a good vibe, we can do something together. And obviously now starting to do the live events. We were talking about it yesterday because we did an event in London, and it's basically Twitch, but in real life. You know, we take it in turns, half an hour sets each, so slightly shorter than raid trains. But we're all just still sitting around, you know, saying, oh, this is a great tune or whatever, but then chatting as if we would be on Twitch. So it's great to see it in real life, and then that hopefully will just grow and grow, and then bring people in, and then bring people back into Twitch. So it's been a really interesting journey, and I think starting these talk shows as well took it into a different realm, because it went past just playing records. It went past sort of playing records and talking to the chat, because then it became a lot more sort of interactive and being able to sort of communicate with people. But also talking, like we've already done, about things that are not just music related, you know, mental health and all the rest of it. It's been a real eye-opener for me that people have been prepared and open and honest and come on the show and talk about these things, you know. And again, thank you. I thank Candy when he comes back. But it's one of those things. So for me, it's just taken what I was doing before, which is basically DJing, and doing events, to something completely different, which I never would have imagined would have happened, really, you know.
It's really cool. And it's, you know, for me, that progression of things, and part of when I was talking about the degree earlier, part of that was about the evolution of technologies and, you know, consumer spending, consumer cycles and stuff like that. And kind of when you look at the technology behind it all, you know, yes, Twitch is different in that it's a video streaming platform. But that's no different to a YouTube, and that was no different to, God forbid, Steak and Cheese when we used to look at it at uni. And, you know, previously things like MySpace existed before MySpace. There was bulletin board systems, or there was a magazine that people could send submissions to. You know, there's always the process, there's always those things. And it just, it as you think about what's gone before, and how, for example, the community around DJ Mag grew and what happened there, you know, and then people have been doing things. I know a lot of people in the chat used to listen to NSB radio and things like that, you know, and we've been able to do these things for a very long time. This is just the next sort of evolution of that technology.
It's the pure interaction, isn't it? Because, you know, obviously I do 45 then, we've got lots of mixes that people do, but that's a bit of a solitary thing, isn't it? You sit down, you listen to a mix, or you have a mix on in the background. And the same with YouTube, you might go and watch some videos, but until Twitch sort of came along, certainly from a DJ point of view, that you could firstly watch like these crazy, amazing DJs who you wouldn't normally be able to watch, like, you know, when Jazzy Jeff started, and Scratch Bastard, and Gaff, and, you know, all these amazing A-Skills, you know, all these amazing DJs that before the pandemic, you'd have to go to a show to see them, wouldn't you? You wouldn't be able to sit at home and suddenly turn it on. And it's interesting that it's carried on, that a lot of them are still doing it on a regular basis, that you can just sit and watch some of your favorite DJs in the world. And also you can drop a message in the chat and they'll say, oh, hi, you know, and they after a while they get to know you and they know who you are. And then you get to know other people. So it's just been amazing. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Twitch probably didn't see it coming with the DJ side of it. Do you think they ever
I think definitely not. And the same way with Discord, you know, I don't think Twitch, I know some of the people at Twitch, you know, that work there through the work I've done at Twitch cons and stuff like that. You know, I've been on some of the tables and seen some of the projections and the plans and everything. And no, I don't think they did see it becoming such a big part of it. Definitely. You know, there's someone that comes into streams. I won't name him and let him talk about himself when he does land, but he's been, I think, in a couple of yours and a few others, and he's really into the interactive element of it. You know, he's obviously at an age, he's kind of like one of us, and he appreciates vinyl and people chatting and different communities. So I don't think they saw it coming from the music point of view. They've certainly kind of gone, oh, we need music at TwitchCons now. We need to approach all these. But there's a really good case of a guy called Piano Impro Man. He's a guy that me and Maria watch a lot. He used to be massive when Twitch was first kind of coming out. It was all about games. But Piano Impro Man, who is bony now, kind of early 80s, I think, him and his wife, she sits on a tiny little screen. He sits with 2 keyboards, a piano and a keyboard, and they do things like video game theme nights and stuff, and you can request a song, and, you know, he'll come out. And that engagement, that was the thing that kind of made me go, right, this is what Twitch is supposed to be then. It's supposed to be about going into someone's home and then putting on a show for you. You know, it's in that respect.
And there's a lot of great to see you back, Candy. We'll come back to you in a sec. But it's part of it, and we talked about it before, it's quite a vulnerable thing, isn't it? You're putting yourself out in front of a camera in your home, and you're letting people into your space and your world. And I think there's something to be said for that. And I think people appreciate that, you know, we're not all like in some fancy studio or whatever. I know some people have got sort of organized stuff, but most people, it's their front room, or it's their lounge, or it's their spare room or whatever. And it's part of their house, which is amazing.
And on the opposite side of that, just before Candy does join back in, there's other artists, you know, that I've seen a very confident streaming normally, but then into a live context have had quite a lot of jitters over that, you know, and it's kind of like, well, you know, you do stream to 30, 40 people, 50 people on a daily basis, you know, you don't kind of, oh shit, you know, and it's kind of that hurdle, I suppose, that mental hurdle of going, oh.
It is, and it's been interesting having gone from DJing quite a lot before to then obviously DJing on Twitch. When we first started DJing back out again, it was trying to get back into that sort of vibe of like, you know, you're not just DJing to your mates and people who are supporting, because that's the thing, isn't it? There's very little, if any, negativity on Twitch. You know, everyone's really positive. Everyone's like, oh, I love this track, or, you know, mostly giving people comments or bigging people up and all the rest of it. When you go to a live gig, unless it is your mates or your mate's party or whatever, it's not the same thing, isn't it? You get people coming up asking for ridiculous requests, or, oh, can you play this or can you play that? And that completely throws you a lot of the time, doesn't it?
The thing is, you do get that in the chat as well. That's this. But again, back to the point of whether you choose to kind of go control your emotion around that and not have to worry about it, and kind of zero out. I've just seen Candy saying, it's more internet issues, but he's trying to get back on again. So it's been interesting for that, because, you know, again, I don't necessarily have an issue with being outgoing or confident or whatever. So it's always interesting for me to see people who outwardly DJs are quite, you know, out there, and that's the thing for them. But then are quite reserved and quite introvert. But it is across the board. It's with a lot of different industries, with a lot of different people. You know, my dad's an artist. There's a lot of other artists that I know, and they don't want to promote themselves. They don't want to be out there doing that. Just want to be creative, make work, and that's kind of it. You know, so it's totally within that creative mindset. It's part and parcel of what you sign up for, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you did stuff before Twitch. You were working on YouTube and things like that, weren't you?
Yeah, I worked with a YouTube producer called Dan Bull for a few years, helping him get commissioned. So he was involved. Sorry, when I was at Bethesda, I saw something he did and said, look, we should have a look at this. This is pretty cool. So we started to work with him. He did a Skyrim rap video a while back. And then, when I was made redundant, I just kind of went, you know what, he might want some help getting more of that kind of work from other people. So started to work with him and another couple of YouTubers, as well as some comedians as well. There was some comedy nights going on in London where I'd take along a Super NES and we'd do Mario Kart in between it, you know.
Yeah.
And that led into a few other things. I was working on the Go 8-Bit TV show for a while as well, because of a consequence of that, because of a few choice meetings and things like that. So yeah, really kind of interesting ways of involving other events really with it. But
It definitely, and I think, you know, I've seen some interesting things happen. There was a Funky Chef was using I think StreamYard, and so you had him DJing, and then he had Sideshow Mall in Germany. So he's in Spain. Sideshow Mall in Germany doing some breakdancing. They then had I think it was in Colombia some skateboarders, and then they had some other people in graffiti. So you had 4 things on the screen at the same time, all doing different things, but yet again connecting. So that's really interesting. There's not a lot of that going on, but I think it's because what we're creating is online festivals effectively. You know, if you break it down, you know, to what we're doing, you know, it'd be the equivalent of if you put all those you can't physically put all those DJs in the same place at the same time, because obviously where a lot of them are based, but it's trying to show people who are not on Twitch or not part of it that, you know, yeah, you want to hear good music, don't just rely on Spotify, AI, or, you know, whatever. Come and hear the human element, choosing records that you wouldn't sort of hear normally.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What I find, well, not if it's interesting or what, but I can't see why there isn't more integration of music festivals with online elements. So why won't Glastonbury selling 20 quid tickets for one stage with 2 camera angles? Do you know what I mean? Like, the technology is there. You can do that really easily. And I don't know, you know, giving too much away, but I don't know if it's because people aren't thinking about that or what. Certainly they know there's money there. So why aren't people broadcasting a festival and selling tickets, you know, like the BBC do with Glastonbury? You've got however much content there that you can just go, all right, tell you what, it's a £5 for that stage, a £5 for that stage. And
I think Sai's saying is perhaps because it's going to stop people from buying tickets to the events.
I don't think it does, because if you've got people that are traveling to Glastonbury anyway, sorry to disagree with you, Si, but if you've got people, 250,000 people that go to Glastonbury, you've got another 5 million around the world that'll happily pay a £5 to watch it because they're never going to go anyway. So I think,
you know, and there's so much going on at these festivals, isn't there? That, you know, obviously the BBC has their certain stages that, you know, until I went to Glastonbury, I was like, wow, there's just so much more going on than what you see on the BBC, you know.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's good to have you back. Good to have you back.
No, and a lot of that, just before I hand back over to Candy, a lot of the sort of the ways that different industries affect each other. You know, I do a lot in esports now, and seeing how they're looking at how F1 present their stuff, how the broadcast element of that happens, all the betting industry around that. You know, it's really interesting to see how one industry influences another. So hopefully we'll see some more technological stuff. Thank you, Mondo. Good.
Mondo's saying Coachella does it well with 6 stages streamed at the same time and with the schedule. That's cool. Mike James, good to see you in the chat, Mike. I hope you're well. He's saying he's starting to get told off when streaming in real life. I don't know. It's difficult. I'm still trying to work it out how best to do it, because we certainly want to do it. One of the things that Barty Cuts does is he has it streamed on a projector behind him, but he switches off the chat and just has emotes only. Because the things I'm always thinking about is, like, you've got to have someone sort of running it if you're going to have people sort of chatting, just to make sure that the chat's okay and that people are all right. But if you just have emotes and those emotes are behind you, people at the events that he does are on Twitch and they're dropping emotes, and then they're suddenly on the screen behind him, and it's sort of interactive. So that's something we'll think about that further down the line. Right, we're going to move on to the last couple of sections. So during the first ever episode we did of this, Mark Lancaster asked in the chat what 45s lift your spirits, and so we've always asked that question since, and it's also led on to my 45-day uplifting mix project as well. And so I've asked you both to pick out 3, not 45s necessarily, but I think, Candy, let's start with you. Give me 3 tracks that.
So I think the first one I put in that list was "Get It Together" by the Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
So it came from their Ill Communication album. It was their first album, I believe, with Mario C as their producer. Obviously had Q-Tip on it as well. That album for me, now I'm a lifelong Beastie Boys fan. That album for me is the best Beastie Boys album ever, and that tune is the best tune on that album.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
I would
if
agree.
I'm in a bad mood, I put that on. And in fact, it's my ringtone on my phone as well. Phone is ringing. Oh my god.
Amazing. Yeah, I've got that on. I think DJ One of a Kind played it at one of our events, and I was like, oh, it's a bit.
So the 45 single of it, interestingly
Yeah.
enough, doesn't have the verse with Q-Tip on it.
No.
Yeah.
It does have Sabotage on the flip as well, which is another
Yes.
amazing
Yeah,
record,
yeah.
and it's on green vinyl, which
Yeah.
is interesting because obviously it's been interesting watching all the video footage from they just done Beastie Boys Square, haven't they, over in New York in the last couple of days.
Ludlow and Rivington. Yeah.
Yeah, that looked pretty dope.
Yeah.
Pretty dope. Right, so that's your first one. What's your second one?
Redemption Song, Bob Marley.
Yeah, classic.
I mean, it's a beautiful piece of music. It was one of the last pieces of music he made. And it's like, now that you listen back to it, it's like, did he know how close he was that was going to be the last thing that he made? But there's one line in it. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. Numbers ourselves can free our mind. That always sticks in my head. And it's because of that I listen to it.
It's an amazing artist, and taken far too early. It would have been amazing. Imagine what he'd be doing if he was still here now.
Well, yeah.
It's
I mean, I love Damian Marley. It's one of his sons.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely brilliant, and the stuff that he did with Nas was just mind blowing. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah.
I was lucky enough to go to. They did that in London at Hammersmith Apollo. I went to
sweet
the gig when they did, and that was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Both legendary artists. Number 3.
Oh crap! What was number 3? Oh yeah, Jar Screechy, Walk and Skank. Yeah, no, Jar Screechy, Walk and Skank. I mean, okay, it's from 1968, I believe, originally. Just a proper dancehall reggae tune. Obviously sampled SL2 on a Raggatip, which was an introduction to breaks for me, to be honest with you. So yeah, it holds a lot of place in my heart, that song.
Well,
yeah, no S Club. No S Club, sorry, dude.
Gutted.
But yeah, I mean, and again, that SL2 record is just amazing, and you can drop it anytime, any place, and people.
I always do.
People absolutely love it. But yeah, no S Club, unfortunately. Right, Swanny, over to you.
This is why I regret going second, isn't it? Because all of my choice is a little different. This is where I should have said "Witness to Fitness" by Roots Maneuver.
Yes.
Because that was instrumental when I was setting up my agency, which was called the Lean Consultancy. I was kind of toying around with names and what should I do? And I was like, well, it's just me and a laptop. What do I know? I know how to lean on suppliers. All right, okay, cool. It's just lean because it's me and my laptop. So there's low overheads. It's that you can lean on me for support. And then obviously Witness to Fitness comes up with we lean all day. Some say that ain't productive. That depends upon the demons that you're stuck with.
Yeah.
So that is one tune that I'd pick.
Just going to pause you there. So that is one of my wife's favorite tunes. It's also one of my favorite tunes, and I had to play that. I didn't have to, but I played that at our wedding because I DJed at our wedding, and Witness to Fitness was one. And I think at that point is when the party sort of took off.
Nice.
It was that and Concrete Schoolyard by Jurassic 5. I had to play those.
Had it at my wedding as well.
There you go. Brilliant.
Okay.
Classic wedding tune.
Wedding tune. Yeah, I think more people should have that at their wedding.
And then, so the second one I've chosen, DB Boulevard was one, but we'll glance over that. Is the 1 second, the Apex remix. So it's kind of a really nice rolling drum and bass tune. When I started to get involved with, not get involved with, but listen to a lot of London Electricity stuff, that was kind of a transitional period, moving house, there's different things going on in life, and kind of that rolling drum and bass sound, that Hospital Records sound, I really, really got quite deep into that very, very quickly. Just listened to everything. But that 1 second track, the Apex remix, just because it was sunrises over London, that kind of time, that tune really got me. So yeah, that would be my second.
And number 3?
Number 3. So the one I have chose is by a band called Gwibdaith. Obviously, I had to have a Welsh song in there, didn't I?
Yep.
But can't go without a mention of Mountain People by Super Furry Animals, because
yes.
I kind of feel glad that I've missed Super Furries off this list now. Listen to every Super Furry Animals song you can. Thanks, Si. Yeah, it's part of my name.
I'm a huge
So
fan.
Welsh.
I've seen them. I've seen them about 6 or 7 times, 8 times maybe. They're amazing.
Phenomenal, aren't they? I remember seeing them at Shepherd's Bush Empire when it was an actual venue and not a hotel, and they drove a golf buggy down the road.
Yeah,
you at that gig?
I think I went to that gig. Yeah, they came on with the golf buggies
No
onto
way.
the stage. Yeah.
Wicked. Oh, that was cool.
Crazy.
Yeah, loved that. They basically drove a golf buggy from outside around Shepherd's Bush and then straight up onto the stage with a camera on the whole time.
Yeah.
They were live streaming. So people were doing it for years.
Yeah.
But the tune I actually chose was by a band called Gribdaith, and it's Tron's de Dad, because it's about getting out of the shower before you go out for a night, and you can't find any clean pants, so you wear your dad's pants. But the whole song is about this guy going on a journey out to a nightclub, meeting a girl, the inevitable happening, and it's how kind of you've put your dad's pants on instead of putting your own pants on. It's just a really nice, funny tune, and it's sort of it helps people learn a bit of Welsh at the same time.
Definitely. Great. Well, I mean, 6, 7 great tunes there. All good. Right. So we're going to get towards the last section. And again, this started because we had Danny Bounce, and he asked a question. I think it was, he obviously spelt it out in the chats. It's like, I like nice, N-I-C-E biscuits, but my wife calls them Nice. So which is it? Is it nice or Nice biscuits? And so we came up with this idea of asking about sort of confectionery corner, where we ask about retro sweets, chocolates, things that people into, in particular certain countries they've come and brought stuff. But in terms of that, Candy, you've got a little story about Haribo, so tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, the irony of being called Candyman, and I don't actually eat candy anymore. So, I mean, I used to live off Haribo. I was a chef for 17 years, and in commercial kitchens, it's a frantic way of life, and everyone, and I mean everyone at that period, just fucking lived off Haribo. And now, years later, lots of those chefs that I know that are still in the business, still eating all that Haribo all the time, all have diabetes. So it's for that reason that I was like, yeah, I need to stop eating sweets so much. So yeah, Haribo is my big love, but I don't eat it anymore. And then you said about chocolate as well, and it's like, I don't like chocolate, but if it's ice cream, it has to be chocolate. Yeah. And I love a chocolate mousse. Okay. But I don't like chocolate. Work that one out. Milkshake also has to be chocolate.
But you don't like the actual physical chocolate.
But I'm not a big fan of chocolate. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Right. Swanny, what about you?
I'd make no secret of the fact that I love a tiramisu. And
do you?
Quite happily, during the course of a Thursday freestyle, go through half a family tiramisu without thinking about it. I don't know why they put serves 4 on it. I'll be the judge of that. Thank you very much. So yes, please, tiramisu. I joke with Maria that I'm going to make her put tiramisu on her rider for next year. So look out for 3 family-sized tiramisus coming up.
Brilliant. I think you also said chocolate milkshake as well, didn't you?
Yeah, chocolate milkshake. I mean, Chocomel, obviously. Like,
yes.
Who doesn't like Chocomel, right? It's nothing wrong with
it. I've been drinking Chocomel. When you used to go to Amsterdam. Obviously, you can get it here now. You never used to be able to. But I think we went to a pub, and my friend came up with the idea of basically saying, "Can I have a hot chocolate Chocomel with some Jack Daniel's whiskey in it, honey whiskey, and a hot Chocomel is that's a nice old drink."
Concoctions. There was a thing that they used to have in Maribel, which Dan's and those guys introduced us to, which was a caliente.
Caliente.
Caliente, which is Candy. You've had them as well, right? Do they do it the same in Morzine as they do in Maribel?
So well, no, I had it in Maribel.
All right, okay. So it's a shot.
What
of
is
rum.
it?
It's a shot of rum and an espresso, and you basically drink half the shot of espresso, the shot of rum, and then the rest of the coffee.
Okay.
And it's amazing. Like, it just wakes you up, shakes you down, gives you the right, the night we can start the night. It's just that nice little whoosh. But it must be an absolute nightmare. Like, the people working the bars behind there having to make 8 espressos in a row, and Those poor bastards.
Poor bastard. Yeah. Cool. Right. We're just going to say goodbye in a minute, but I'm just going to raid. It's a slow-mo raid train, which I'm on at 11 o'clock. It's the slow-mo anniversary. It's 1 year anniversary since Dr. Bresci Train. So we're going to go and see Ricardo DJing. So we're going to set the raid. But yeah, raid set. I think that's cool. But thank you so much. It's been amazing. I'm sure there's lots more stories that we didn't even get to. So I'm sure we may do a part 2 at some point or do that. But thank you for being on the show. And Kempola, I'm saying that right. Thank you. You've just become my 2,245th follower. I like 45, so thank you. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being open, honest, telling us about stories, telling us some really important things. Hopefully people have got something out of today, and I hope it's helped some people. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
We're looking forward to certainly doing we've got another 45 Kids 45 day thing at the end of September, so watch this space for that. And thank you, Criztoz, for that follow as well. But yeah, great.
I'm streaming tomorrow morning, by the way, 10 a.m. for Carol's birthday.
Cool. There you go. So a birthday celebration. We love birthdays. We love milestones. We love everything on Twitch, and it's just one big community. But thank you so much, guys. If you hang on there for a minute, we'll have a quick chat after the show. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Don't feel you have to stay with the slow-mo. If you like it, it's cool. If not, then I'm sure there's plenty of other streamers you can go and see. But catch you all soon. Take it easy.
Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.